This is Jainism Beliefs and Practices with your host, Angela Swift. Jainism has its roots in 500 BCE Patna, now Bihar State, India, in about the same time period that Buddhism formed. While the following was established by Vardhama Mahavira, he is not considered to be the first prophet of this religion. Jains believe that there are 24 Tirthankaras, ford makers, in any period of time that act as teachers and leaders who spearhead humanity toward Kevala Jnana, ultimate knowledge, and ultimately moksha, liberation of the soul from the karmic cycle. As Mahavira was the 24th and last Tirthankara of this age, Mahavira's followers continued his legacy in the oral tradition for a millennia before switching to written scripture. The 1,000 years that the Jains relied on the oral transference of Mahavira's teachings degraded the messages and even entirely lost portions of it. The questionable authenticity of the source scripture has led to dissent among Jains, and the two major sects, Digambar and Shvetambar, were already extant before 500 CE, when Jains decided to start documenting their scripture. Even though the sects are relatively faithful to the same ideals, each sect has varying amounts of the lessons and stories recorded from the oral tradition that they accept, and subsequent differing practices and beliefs. Core beliefs that impact the lifestyle of all Jains that transcend the sects are that of karma, jiva, ayisma, anatakavada, and the three jewels. While Jains believe in karma, they do not ascribe to the belief that an accumulation of good karma is the path to enlightenment. Instead, any accumulation of karma is seen as an impediment on the soul, jiva, regardless of its connotation, and is seen as a materialistic mark of one's actions in the world. The path to Kevala Jnana and moksha is one of steadfast meditation and detachment from worldly affairs. Jains spend their lives trying to work off their karmic debts from previous and current incarnations to be liberated from the karmic cycle of rebirth. Jains believe that all life contains a jiva, and that even objects scientifically classed as non-living, such as fire, earth, and water, have a soul, but are more limited in what senses they have than more complex life forms, like mammals and insects. Ayisma is the reverence held by Jains for all bodies that contain a jiva. Jains will go out of their way to avoid harming and killing such entities, to the point that all Jains are fruitarians, as eating a plant like a carrot would mean harming and killing the entire organism. This is followed to various degrees, as the nuns and monks will typically take on a much more stringent lifestyle, like wearing mouth coverings to avoid ingesting microscopic organisms, while lay people will take on measures like avoiding agricultural positions. Anatakavada is the no-one perspectivism belief in Jainism, which means that all points of view contain some element of the one truth, Satya. As a result, Jains hold that all beliefs and perspectives are correct, but do not contain the entire truth, which is why Jains see it as their duty to listen and learn from other religions and beliefs, as they all contribute to an overarching picture of the truth. The three jewels refers to Samyak Darshana, right faith, Samyak Jnana, right knowledge, and Samyak Charita, right conduct. This throng of rights refers to their commitment to nonviolence and worldly detachment that they must honor in the past, present, and future with their actions, words, and thoughts. Some of the more fundamental theoretical beliefs that Jains hold is that there are 24 Tirthankaras in every Kalchakra period of time, and that karma binds us to the material world. While time is considered infinite, it is repeating with Kalchakras that subdivide into Utsarpini, progressive periods, and the Avarsarpini, regressive periods, each with their own 6 uneven subdivisions ranging from very good to very bad. We are presently in the Avarsarpini half of this Kalchakra in its 5th subdivision, Dukkam Kal, lasting tens of thousands of years, while no one born will receive salvation, and Jains predict that their lifestyle, traditions, and beliefs will be lost. Tirthankaras, the spiritual leaders in Jainism, are only found in the Utsarpini period of any Kalchakra, as these are essentially the Renaissance periods of time where spiritualism flourishes. The Avarsapini periods are a time of moral degradation and worldly involvement. No one born in these periods will receive Kavala Janana, and anyone who dies in them cannot attain moksha. Karma is not only a cycle of rebirth based on actions, but it is also believed to be a physical presence in the world by Jains. Karma theory by Jains is explained by Karman particles, which are very fine particles all over the universe, that are attracted in clusters, called Karman Varganas, to people that think or act with passion. This process of attraction, asrava, and subsequent bonding of the Karman Varganas to the soul is what creates karma. The accumulation, duration, and intensity of the karma bound to the soul is dependent upon the passion the action was taken with, how actively it was done, and how strong the individual desires of the person were. These factors also decide how the karma can be resolved. Some accumulated karma can be dealt with simply by having regrets, while others will have to come to full maturity and bear their fruits before they are shed. Jains believe there are 8 kinds of karma that fall into destructive and non-destructive categories that bond to the soul, and each type impacts the person a different way. The gati karmas, destructive karmas, affect the soul by impairing knowledge and perception or by diluting and obstructing the soul. The destructiveness of gati karma is relative to how it impacts the soul's path to Kavala Janana. Agati karmas, non-destructive karmas, only affect the person's physical body and are therefore considered non-destructive in the scheme of the soul's destination of moksha. The composite of existing Jain scripture can be divided into 2 categories, the agams and the non-agams. But all of these texts are based on the life and teachings of Tirthankara Mahavira. The agams are the recorded lessons and life of Vardhama Mahavira that survived 1,000 years of oral tradition. And the non-agams are texts that were written and compiled by monks and nuns that are based on the agams. The Digambar, sky-clad sect of Jainism, does not accept any of the agams, as they believe that the original teachings and stories were corrupted over time by the oral tradition, and their true meaning has been lost as a result. The Shvetambar, white-clad sect, is considered the more liberal of the two, and even has 4 subsects, the Murtapujaks, Jinas, Thipkamvasis, and Terapanths. The main Shvetambar sect and subsects all follow the agams, but to differing degrees. The Shvetambar sect accepts the majority of Jain agams, which include 12 Angagams and 14 Angbaya agams. The Angagams are considered the primary texts as they contain the recorded teachings of Lord Mahavir and were compiled by Gandharas, monks who had achieved Kavalajana. While there are technically 12 Angagams, both Digambars and Shvetambars agree that the Dravastad, the 12th Angagam, and its 14 Purva Sutras are completely lost to time. All 3 sects of Shvetambar accept the other 11 Angagams, believing that they have retained their true message. The Angbayahagams were written by Sritkavilas monks, who had knowledge of at least 10 Purva Sutras. The Digambar sect rejects all of the agams. They have to refer to other scripture as source material. These non-agams that the Digambar accept were composed by acharyas, the great scholars, as early as 800 CE and fall into 2 categories, the 2 main texts and the 4 anuyogas. The 2 main texts were authored by 3 acharyas, Pushpadant, Buddhabali, and Gandhara. And despite their rejection of the 12th Angagam, the Dravastad, Digambars accept these 2 scriptures that are based off of the 2nd and 5th Purva Agams. The major divide in accepted source material has led to dissent in beliefs on Mahavira's life and lessons between the Digambar and Shvetambar. Jains in the Shvetambar order believe that Tirthankara Mahavira lived a full life, married, waited until after his parents passed away, and got permission from his other family members before pursuing an ascetic life at the age of 30. The Digambars believe that Mahavira was born ascetically inclined, and that he renounced his family at the age of 8. Differences between the Digambar sect and the Shvetambar sect are readily apparent when comparing the lifestyles and teachings of their respective monks, sadhus, and nuns, sadhvis. The Digambar sect has no sadhvis, as they believe that women cannot earn moksha within their feminine incarnation and must first be reborn as a man so that they can renounce their clothing. Digambar sadhus live completely nude in their temples, while the sadhus and sadhvis of the Shvetambar wear only two-piece white cloth garments. The Shvetambar hold that the 19th Tirthankara, Malanatha, was a woman, and therefore believe that women can attain Kavala Janana and earn moksha within their lifetime. The origins of the two major sects, the very, very beginnings of their first divide, actually comes from Tirthankara Mahavira creating a community following of the Stavira Kalps and the Jaina Kalps, two different orders of mendicants. Which, by the way, the idea of mendicants is something that actually is present in several ancient religions. It's literally just a religious person who lives extremely strictly by their teachings, and they rely on handouts or alms from the lay people who believe in that religion. So the Stavira Kalps would wear clothes, but a portion of the Jaina Kalps wore nothing in the same fashion as Mahavira. The first splintering of Mahavira's community is traced back to a famine that occurred in 310 BCE, where the leader of this community set out to find provisions for them, and returned to find that the second in command had called for a council that allowed for Jains to be clothed, regardless of their prior Kalp affiliation. The leader found that he could not reinstate the sky-clad rule to any portion of the Jains, following this decree made in his absence. Another legend in the Jain community contributes the origins of the Digambar sect to a sadhu who was gifted a beautiful blanket by a king he had gained the favor of. His acharya warned him that the item would impede his spiritual growth, but he kept it. The acharya destroyed the blanket in his absence, and when he returned, he was so furious that he decided that if he could not have even one possession, that he would keep nothing and wander the world naked. The Shvetambar also tell of another story involving the same monk, where his sister asked to join the Digambar sect he had started, only to be turned away because it is impractical for women to be nude as the males are. It is fascinating, in summation, looking at these two sects and how they started as far back as Mahavira actually joining these two different camps of mendicants together. They already had that very tightly ingrained belief of one was fine with wearing very, very simple, very plain clothes, and the other one was already decided that they were going to go about naked, just as Mahavira was. Reading some of what the Jains were actually saying about the formation of this grouping of people about Mahavira, this almost clan that he created out of these two camps of mendicants. It really shows how much of a charismatic leader he was to bring these two groups together who already had these very strongly ingrained ideals about how one should live, how one should go about life.